the whole notion of Eliyahu Navi coming is, I believe, in Sefer Yeshayahu. It says that, right? Before the day of the Lord, Eliyahu will come, whatever, this and that. However, the way I read the prophets is like this. The job of the prophet, again, is to give you a account of the life and times of that prophet. So the vast majority, in my opinion, all the stories that appear in the book of the prophets already happened already. I mean, some people, I think in the Christian world, they call this Peterism, right? That it's telling you a story that already happened. If not, you'd have to believe that all of these supposed prophecies happened twice. This is an argument I make with Christians all the time, right? If Isaiah 7:14 is talking about a virgin birth, and this was fulfilled in Jesus, but was also fulfilled uh, in Isaiah's generation, there must have been two virgins and two, children born.
I'm excited for this.
No, chime in, Courtney. Go ahead. Is that like a? Do you do like a sheep sound?
That's wrong. No.
Okay. I'm sorry. Right, go ahead.
No. So that's no. So that's a common argument from Tovia Singer. He makes the statement that if he said, "Go ahead and."
My argument predated Tovia Singer, by the way.
Okay, I mean, either way, I'm just saying, like anti-missionary stuff, but essentially, it's. He tells his people to go ahead and say, yeah, that's fine. I'll concede. This is about Jesus. And then when they say, see, he says, then you hit them with the fact, okay, so there's two virgin births. And then all of a sudden the virgin birth doesn't become so special. But essentially I have a totally different outlook on it. I have this.
Oh, wait a minute. So you can't say it's wrong. You'll say that you have a different opinion.
No.
It's wrong to you.
I'm saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's wrong.
Okay, all right. Okay.
But I'm saying the interpretation from my Christian perspective for the mainstream is wrong. In other words, I'm giving you guys credit that my.
Okay, wait. For everybody listening, Courtney is a proud Messianic Jew, and Messianics or Hebrew rooters are welcome, and I treat you all like, kin and family members. And go ahead. I just have to throw that disclaimer out there.
Okay. So in other words, my side has done an extremely poor job of explaining Isaiah 7 in context to its historical application and how it also applies in the New Testament. So basically, if I can quickly state this, it absolutely is about a civil war that's coming. And Tovia says, well, if it's about a civil war, then what kind of sign is this? If all of a sudden, Ahaz is sitting here surrounded and he's like, in 700 years, someone's going to come. Well, the reason why that is actually uplifting, because if you read the chapter, it says what the Northern Kingdom wanted to do. Let's go and make the son of Tabeel king over them. Over who? Over Judah. And ultimately that would thwart the promise of God, which the promise of God is found.
Wait.
Hold on.
No, hold on. I mean, somebody is like hijacking the chat and it said that I'm writing something that I did not write.
But anyway, so essentially, how does that prophecy help him? Well, because the idea was that they were going to come in and have another king sit over Judah. And that would thwart the promise of God. And the promise of God is found in Genesis 49:10, Numbers 24:17, Proverbs 60:1-5, or 5-7, really, which is basically that there would always be a scepter, i.e.
Yeah, but you're getting off track.
No, I'm not. I'm actually right on track.
Okay, all right.
So what I was talking about here was the scepter, the Messiah, the promise, and the reason not to fear the northern tribes in Isaiah 7 when Ahaz was fearful that the son of Tabeel would be king over Judah. This is what Isaiah 7 is talking about.
Because Yeshua is called, he's the scepter. And so that's the promise. Like a friend of mine, actually, we were talking about this the other day, and he said, so it's basically like saying, I'm sitting in a room and I'm scared I'm going to run out of oxygen in the room. And then someone says, no, you're not going to run out of oxygen because I'm going to transfer you somewhere else. And the reason why that is because a promise that I made to you so long ago is going to be fulfilled. Because, I mean, you got to think about it. Their promise is not over war, because God actually just tells them, by the way, Assyria is going to come in and take over. I mean, their issue is not war and, oh gosh, we're going to lose this. The war that they're worried about is losing the seat of Judah, the king. That's the fear. It literally says this is the fear they have. They're going to come in and make the son of Tabil king over them. So God has already established a king in the New Testament. That is Yeshua,
You've had 3 minutes to make your case. I'm not disagreeing with what you think is true there, but how is it not two different instances, right? Is it two instances? Is Isaiah speaking to one audience and another, or is it completely talking about a future event?
No, the prophecy of the Messiah is the prophecy of the Almah, which is Mary. In other words, Isaiah is saying, you don't need to.
I love it when you call me señorita.
Look, there's another Asher Meza here.
I didn't need you.
Hey, Asher, how's it going?
La, la, la. It's true, la, la, la.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're trying to talk about Torah here.
oh, you keep
We're gonna have to mute your mic, my man.
man.
Whoever's singing might not realize it, but we hear it.
No, it was Asher
Not bad,
Meza.
it's just... Oh, that
It
was
was
Asher
Asher
Meza?
Meza himself.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Asher, you know, you have a lovely voice.
No, I'm like a Gregorian. You're like a Gregorian monk. I could speak and sing at the same time. No, it was someone else with the name Asher Meza. You know, so that was, I guess, the person who wrote the stuff. I kicked them out. All right, go ahead, Courtney.
I don't remember. I don't know what you said.
All right. Okay. You know, so you're saying that when Isaiah was opposed prophecies, he was pointing or speaking about specifically Jesus and not an event in his time.
Right. The event in his time would have been, you don't need to be concerned about the son of Tabil being sat over you. Mm-hmm. Assyria is coming. And then we find out in Kings that, God, Hezekiah is going, no.
So it's interwoven in there. In other words, there's key words like Almah and El Gibor and all these things pointing to Jesus, but the narrative itself is applicable to Isaiah's generation.
Only a certain portion. I mean, it would be me. It'd be like if I were God and I told you, Asher, I have a promise to you. And then let's say 500 years from now, you're sweating bullets because you're surrounded by armies, and the army's going to come in and they're going to seat someone in your presence. And I made you the promise that you would always sit there, right? You're Judah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you're sweating bullets. Oh no, someone's going to come in and take my authority. But I already made you a promise. It's not going to happen. Essentially, Isaiah was telling them, you've lost a lot of your faith. You don't understand that God has already promised you that this would not happen. And we find out in Kings that Jerusalem, while it was taken, it wasn't taken fully. So God promised them that no one except for Judah would have, it would be Judah that would have the scepter. No one else.
We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't love anymore.
You know what happened? Lazy. Well, anyways, Courtney, I like your explanation. I don't think it completely contradicts my theory. I mean, it's just a theory, right? Well, you think that what I said is completely wrong because you really believe in it. I'll give you the courtesy of saying that you may be right. I just don't read the prophets like that just because I don't think God gave the prophets the authority to write an almanac of things that are going to happen, but really just to bring Israel back to Torah observance. But it could be viewed like that. That's how most even Jews view it. Not that it's pointing to Jesus, but that we believe in progressive revelation, or that even prophets could add to the Torah. As much as the rabbis claim to be all Torah only in terms of prophecy, and all this stuff, but it's nonsense. But they even believe that rabbis today, I mean, the rabbis who wrote the Zohar, the rabbis in Kabbalistic literature, that's progressive revelation. So they're allowed to have progressive revelation, but I guess Christians aren't.
So the reason why I turned this into a small video is because I think it really explains accurately that the Christian side of the spectrum has done a pretty poor job at explaining Isaiah 7 in context to what the chapter is actually talking about, and yet how it also applies to Yeshua in the New Testament. Now, I can appreciate Asher's understanding and his ability to sit and listen to someone else's perspective outside of what is considered Orthodox Judaism, of which he ascribes to. But I think it's our job as New Testament believers to fully explain a passage while keeping it in context. We cannot rip a passage out of its context and say, oh, that's about Jesus. We have to be able to accurately explain this. And this is why I focus so much on Genesis 49:10, Numbers 24:17, and Psalm 60, and so many other places that tell you that the scepter will not depart from Judah until the Messiah comes. And then elsewhere, we find out that this is also linked to the arm of the Lord. We find elsewhere that it's also linked to many, many other messianic passages. And if we can understand that that is what Isaiah 7 is trying to say, I think we can get a lot further in discussions with Orthodox Jews, or in general with anyone that has pressing questions about Isaiah 7. The entire intent of Isaiah saying what he says and calling or speaking to the house of David is to point you back to Genesis 49:10. And in 2 Kings 8 and 20, we find that this is echoed, where he says that the Lord is not going to destroy Judah because he made a promise to maintain a lamp for David and his descendants forever. And then I will add 15 years to your life, and I will deliver you and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. I will defend this city for my sake and the sake of my servant David. This has nothing to do with a child born in that time. It has everything to do with the fact that the promise that God is reminding them of is that the Messiah would come through the line of Judah and would be the one that would sit forever, as Psalm 110 says, in the order of Melchizedek, which is the king that is righteous and reigns forever. And that's the promise of God. So before I end the video, I want you to take a quick look at Psalm 119:105. Your word is a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. Now remember, in Kings, it says he promised to maintain a lamp for Judah and his descendants forever. This is resurrection talk, guys, and this is just why you can go and you can find these passages that link you to other messianic passages, and before you know it, you have a complete and total picture of Yeshua from the New Testament. So guys, I hope the video is a blessing to you, and until next time, shalom.